If you ever find yourself driving down Route 6 near Black Hollow, Texas, don't stop at the old roadhouse with the broken neon sign. It looks abandoned, but it isn't. I work the night shift there, and I was given a list of rules that make no damn sense. Like, don't speak to the mirror after 3:03 a.m. And if the jukebox plays by itself, run. I broke one of them once, and now I'm not sure I'm alive anymore that I didn't take the job because I needed money. I took it because I needed to disappear. There's a difference. Texas is full of long stretches of nowhere, and I wanted the kind of nowhere no one could trace me to. My name isn't important, and if you knew it before, just forget it. All you need to know is this. I was running from something big, and when a handwritten ad for a night shift caretaker wanted, room included, pay weekly caught my eye at a gas station in Amarillo, I called the number without thinking twice. The man on the other end sounded like he hadn't spoken to anyone in years. Gravelly voice, few words. "You'll start tonight," he said. "Don't you need to know my name?" I asked. He paused. Then, "Won't matter if you follow the rules." I thought it was just some Texas shit, tight-lipped locals and strange manners. I didn't know how serious he was. I didn't know the tavern wasn't just old. It was wrong. The Black Hollow Tavern. I arrived around dusk. The building stood alone off the highway, where the desert started to feel like it was swallowing you whole. Weather-worn boards, shattered windows, a porch that looked like it hadn't been swept since the 80s. But the sign still hung, Black Hollow Tavern. Neon tubing buzzed faintly, flickering between life and death. That I stepped inside, expecting mildew and rot. But the air was clean, too clean, like a hospital or a funeral home. The tavern was mostly one big room with an old bar, half a dozen booths, a dusty jukebox, and stairs leading up to a second floor that creaked even when no one was on it. There was no staff, no patrons, just a single sheet of paper nailed to the wall behind the bar. The rules, written in all caps, red ink faded with time. Rule number 1. Do not enter room 5 under any circumstances. Rule number 2. If the stag's head above the fireplace turns to face you, leave the building immediately and return in exactly 3 minutes. Rule number 3. Never look behind the bar after midnight. Rule number 4. If you hear footsteps on the second floor, stay behind the salt line. Rule number 5. The mirror in the men's restroom is not a mirror after 3:03 a.m. Do not speak to it. Rule number 6. If the phone rings, do not answer. Ever. Rule number 7. Do not engage with the woman in the blue dress, even if she knows your name. Rule number 8. The jukebox plays only when it is hungry. If it plays, do not hide. Feed it. Rule number 9. Leave a shot of whiskey on table 6 at exactly 2:14 a.m. Rule number 10. Never stay past sunrise. I laughed. Thought it was some sick joke from the owner. Maybe he liked screwing with new hires. But I couldn't shake the weird feeling crawling up my spine. That room had silence with weight. Like the walls were holding their breath. I set my duffel bag behind the bar, poured myself a shot. I was alone, after all, and figured I'd crash in the back room after locking the place up. That was my first mistake. 10:23 p.m. Footsteps upstairs. The first few hours were uneventful. No cars, no customers, nothing, until I heard footsteps above me, slow, deliberate, like boots on old hardwood. I stood completely still behind the bar, staring up at the ceiling. The creaking stopped above me, directly above me. That's when I remembered rule #4. I scanned the bar top until I saw it. A thin, chalky white line circling the bar. Salt. It looked old, but intact. I stayed behind it. Didn't move. The creaking resumed, across the ceiling, down the hallway, toward what I assumed was room 5. Then silence. I didn't breathe for a full minute. 12:04 a.m. The bar mirror. By midnight, I was starting to regret every decision that led me here. I turned toward the long mirror behind the bar to wipe it down, and froze. There was something wrong with my reflection. It was smiling. I wasn't. My hands were still. My face was frozen. But the reflection smirked and raised a finger to its lips. Shoo. It mouthed. I turned away instantly, nearly knocking over a bottle of bourbon. My heart pounded against my ribs. Rule number 3. Never look behind the bar after midnight. I poured a shot and drank it fast. 2:14 a.m. Table 6. I figured, what the hell? I was here. Might as well follow the rules. Joke or not. So at exactly 2:14 a.m., I placed a full shot glass on table 6. No one sat there. There hadn't been a soul in this place all night. As soon as I set it down, the temperature in the room dropped. I could see my breath. A deep sigh echoed from the booth. Like an invisible man just settled into the seat and took a grateful drink. The glass was empty when I turned back. I didn't clean it up. I didn't dare. 3:03 a.m. The mirror speaks. I don't know what compelled me. Maybe I was drunk. Maybe I was curious. But at 3:03 a.m., I stepped into the men's room. The mirror was foggy, but I could still see my shape in it. Barely. Then it whispered, not aloud, but in my mind, like a radio tuned to a voice just beneath the static. "Who are you really?" it asked. "Do they know what you did?" I staggered back, hands shaking. The mirror changed. My reflection was gone. In its place was a different man, older, bloodied, bruised, eyes missing. He pointed at me with a trembling hand. "You belong here." I screamed and fled the bathroom, heart ready to explode. 3:33 a.m. The jukebox. I sat behind the bar, trying to calm down, when the jukebox flicked to life. N01 touched it. The song was some old country tune I didn't recognize. Scratchy and warped. The lights pulsed red. I froze. Rule number 8. If the jukebox plays, do not hide. Feed it. Feed it what? The floorboards near the jukebox creaked. A long shadow formed across the bar. Something moved from behind the machine, dragging itself forward. It was tall. Too tall. Limbs too long. Eyes missing, mouth stitched shut. It crawled on all fours, sniffing. I didn't hide. I took the leftover shot from table 6 and slid it toward it. It stopped, tilted its head, and took the drink. The glass shattered in its grip. Then it vanished. 4:47 a.m. The woman in the blue dress, she entered through the front door. I didn't hear it open. She was just there, blonde hair, blue 50s style dress, barefoot. Her skin was too pale, like she hadn't seen sunlight in decades. "Hello," she said, smiling. "You're new." I didn't respond. She tilted her head. "Do you remember me?" Rule number 7. Do not engage. Even if she knows your name. She stepped closer. "You were there the night the fire started, weren't you?" I backed up into the bar, heartbeat pounding in my ears. "You shouldn't have come here," she said. "Now he knows." The door slammed behind her. She vanished. Sunrise. Breaking rule #10. I didn't leave. I should have. But I passed out from exhaustion behind the bar. The sunlight was what woke me. That and the overwhelming scent of smoke. I opened my eyes. The tavern was burning. Not in flames, but in smell, in heat, in illusion. I ran outside and turned around. It was fine. No fire. No smoke. No damage. Just the black hollow tavern, humming in the morning light. But something was different. A new sheet of paper was nailed to the wall. "You broke a rule. Now the tavern knows you." The tavern shouldn't have remembered me. That's what the man on the phone had said when I first took the job. "You're a stranger. That's good. Stay a stranger. Don't let it know you." But now it did. And I had no idea what that meant. The note wasn't there when I passed out behind the bar, but it was there when I woke up. A fresh sheet of paper, clean and stiff, nailed beside the list of rules like a final warning from something that had been watching me all night. "You broke a rule. Now the tavern knows you." I thought about quitting. Hell, I nearly ran, but I didn't. Maybe because I had nowhere else to go. Or maybe because some part of me wanted to understand what this place really was. So I stayed. And on my second night, things got worse. 9:12 p.m. The man in the freezer. It was early in my shift. I'd cleaned up the bar, relined the salt around the floorboards, and double-checked the doors. Everything seemed quiet until I heard a loud thud from the back. I followed the sound to the walk-in freezer. A padlock kept it sealed, though I never remembered locking it. The metal door was icy to the touch, frost curling at the corners. Another thud. I bent down and pressed my ear to the door, but that's when the whisper came, right in my ear, from inside the freezer. "Let me out. It's so cold." I jumped back, nearly slipping. Another voice followed. This one dry, deeper, more malicious. "Don't." He froze for a reason. I backed away slowly. Whatever was in that freezer, it wasn't food. 10:17 p.m. New rules appear while wiping down the bar. I noticed something odd. There were now 12 rules. 2 more had been added since last night, typed in the same red ink. Rule number 11. If you see yourself entering the tavern, do not acknowledge him. Rule number 12. Do not listen to the tavern's offer. It lies that I didn't know what either meant. Not yet, but I had a feeling I'd find out. 11:33 p.m. myself. Walking in, the bell above the door chimed. I looked up, and my heart stopped. I walked in, same clothes, same face, same everything, except for the eyes. His eyes were hollow, empty, like the inside of a coffin. He didn't blink as he crossed the threshold and stood in the center of the tavern, staring at me. I remembered rule #11. Do not acknowledge him. But how the hell do you ignore yourself? He raised one hand slowly, a mirror of my every movement. Then, without warning, he opened his mouth and screamed. The sound wasn't human. It was static, like every television on Earth screeching at once. The salt line at my feet sparked, flaring like gunpowder, and the doppelganger disintegrated into ash. Gone. I vomited into the sink behind the bar. 1:09 a.m. The tavern speaks. It started with the lights flickering, then the jukebox humming even, though no song played. Then the whispers began, not in my ears, in the wood. The tavern itself was talking. Stay, it said. We can give you peace. You've suffered so much, haven't you? I froze. Your past can't reach you here. No police, no debt, no judgment, only silence. I grabbed the nearest bottle and smashed it against the bar. Shut up. I yelled. Everything went still. Then a slow laugh, rattling through the walls like termites gnawing on secrets. Soon, it said, you'll beg to stay. 2:14 a.m. A new guest this time. When I left the whiskey on table 6, someone was waiting. He looked like a normal man. Middle-aged, gray suit, pale skin, hands folded on the table, but his eyes were black. Not pupil black, void black, like he'd been carved from shadow. He nodded to me. Thank you, he said, and lifted the glass. Most forget. Who are you? I asked before I could stop myself. He sipped, smiled. I used to be you, he said. Then he disappeared in a blink, glass and all. The table still smelled like sulfur. 3:03 a.m. Mirror ritual. I blocked the men's restroom off with chairs. That I wasn't going near that damn mirror again. But it didn't matter. The whispers came anyway, through the pipes, through the walls, through the glass in the liquor bottles. They called my name, not the fake one I gave the guy on the phone. My real name, Ethan. That was impossible. No one here knew it, except the woman in the blue dress. 3:36 a.m. Her return. She stood behind the bar when I turned around, calm, serene, barefoot, and still. You've started to remember, she said. Good. I didn't speak. You're not like the others. That's why he likes you. Who's he? I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to know. Her expression darkened. The owner, she whispered. The true owner. I looked around. This place is abandoned. She laughed softly, sadly. No, Ethan. You are. And with that, she walked backward into the wall, melting into the wood like smoke. 4:12 a.m. The fire. The smell of smoke returned. I looked to the fireplace, dead cold, but the stag's head above it was turned, facing me. Rule #2. I didn't hesitate. I ran outside and waited exactly 3 minutes. When I returned, everything was different. The floor was charred. The walls were blackened with soot. And a new object sat behind the bar, a dusty photo album. I opened it. Photos of me as a child, as a teen, as a man. Things no one else should have had. The final photo showed me sitting at the bar. Tonight, blood on my hands. I dropped it and stumbled back. The photo album burst into flames. 5:00 a.m. The final warning. As the sky began to lighten, I packed my things. I'd had enough. Screw the paycheck. Screw the past. I was leaving, but when I reached the door, it wouldn't open. Chains wrapped around it from the outside. From nowhere. A voice echoed from every corner of the tavern. You broke the rules. I fell to my knees. What do you want from me? Silence. Then, faintly, music from the jukebox. A song I remembered from childhood. My mother's favorite. It played as the tavern wept blood from the walls, and I understood. This place didn't want to kill me. It wanted to keep me. 6:11 a.m. The stranger returns just before sunrise. The front door unchained itself. A man stepped in. Same gravelly voice I'd heard on the phone. You made it through night 2, he said. I stood up shakily. What the hell is this place? He stared at me for a long moment. You already know. Why me? I asked. Why this job? He lit a cigarette, exhaled smoke, and said, because you killed them. My blood froze. What? He flicked. The ash, the fire. Your family. You lit it. You ran. And the tavern? Well, it finds people like you. I staggered back, memories flooding like razors. He smiled. See you tomorrow, Ethan. He walked back out the door, and I collapsed behind the bar, screaming into my hands. I didn't sleep after night 2 that I sat at the booth nearest the door, gunmetal morning light casting long shadows across the blood-stained floor. My hands shook, not from fear, but memory, because the man was right that I had set that fire, the night my wife screamed and begged. The night the house burned so hot the firefighters couldn't even find bones. I ran and never looked back. But somehow, this tavern found me. Or maybe it had been waiting. And it wasn't just a building. It was alive. And now it knew me. 6:55 p.m. The tavern breathed before my shift began. I stood in the lot, watching the sunset die behind blood-orange clouds that I told myself I wouldn't go back inside. But the tavern breathed, that I swear to God. Its walls expanded and collapsed like lungs. Boards creaked as if shifting into place. And when I stepped toward the highway to leave, just leave, every sound in the desert vanished. No crickets, no wind, no cars, just that cold, sucking inhale from inside the tavern, as though it were preparing to devour me whole. I turned back and stepped inside. 7:03 p.m. A new list. The original rules were gone. The red-stained paper behind the bar was shredded, peeled from the wall as if clawed by invisible hands. In its place, written in charcoal on bare wood. The rules no longer apply. Now. You listen to US. 8:00 p.m. The return of the mirror. Monty hadn't gone near the men's room since the incident. But now the lights flickered in that hallway, drawing me forward like a moth to a grave. The mirror whispered louder tonight. No longer just my name, but accusations. Murderer. Coward. Arsonist. I stepped inside. My reflection was waiting. But it wasn't me. It was the charred version of me. Flesh peeling, eyes missing, mouth a melted cave of teeth. You lit the fire, it rasped. I didn't mean to, I whispered. Yes, you did. Its hand reached through the glass, fingers, cold and wet with blood. I stumbled backward, and the mirror shattered. But my reflection remained in the shards, laughing. 9:45 p.m. The booth bleeds. Table 6 bled tonight. When I set the whiskey down, it hissed, like flesh against metal. A pool of blood seeped from the wood grain, swirling around the glass. I watched, frozen, as the blood formed words that you drank while they burned. I choked back bile. The jukebox played the sound of screaming, not music, just shrieking children and snapping bones, twisted into a horrible symphony of guilt. I fell to my knees and covered my ears. The jukebox stopped, but the screams continued. From inside my head. 10:17 p.m. My wife appears. I didn't see her walk. In 1 second, I was wiping down the bar. The next, she was there, Lana, just as I remembered. Jeans and a white tee, her favorite necklace, a small scar on her left cheek from the time she fell off her bike in 09. But her eyes were black, like holes in paper. Hey, baby, she whispered. I backed away. You're not her. I forgave you, she said. Why can't you? My lip trembled. I couldn't speak. She smiled, but her teeth were too many, rows upon rows like a shark's. You belong here, she whispered, and then she vanished. In a puff of black smoke. 11:59 p.m. The clock stops. The tavern had an old grandfather clock in the corner, right beside the jukebox. I never noticed it before. Tonight, it struck midnight. Then again, and again, and again. It kept striking midnight, non-stop. 12 chimes, then 12 more, and 12 again. It wouldn't stop. I checked my watch. 2:16 a.m. But the clock still struck 12. I tore open the face. Inside, an eye blinked at me. Blood trickled from the wood. The tavern was breaking time itself now. I ran behind the bar, desperate to reset the world. But the mirror shards began spinning in the air like razors, and each one whispered my name. In my wife's voice. 3:03 a.m. The tavern's offer. The lights all dimmed at once. The walls groaned. And then, he appeared. Not the man from the phone. The owner. 7 feet tall, dressed in a bartender's apron soaked in black. No face, just a mass of writhing shadows. Arms that stretched across the bar top like vines. He didn't speak with words. He imposed thoughts into my skull. Give yourself to me. Forever. No more pain. No more memory. I nearly said yes. I almost surrendered. Then I looked into the back room. There, nailed to the wall, was the same burnt photo album, rebuilt. Pages open. I approached. The photo on the last page was new. It was me, kneeling in front of the owner. Mouth stitched shut. Eyes hollow. A trophy. No. I whispered. The tavern roared in fury, plaster cracking, flames licking the ceiling beams. But I didn't move. I refused. The owner vanished, and for the first time, the jukebox exploded. 4:44 a.m. New voices joined the tavern. Was breaking apart, or maybe it was evolving. The walls bent inward. Stools melted. The floor rippled like water. Voices filled the air. Hundreds, men, women, children, crying, pleading, screaming. Some called for help. Others begged to be forgotten. I saw their shadows burned into the walls, their outlines pressed into booths, under tables, on the floorboards. The tavern had taken them all, and now it wanted me to join the collection. 5:55 a.m. The stranger's final visit just before sunrise. The man returned. The same one who hired me. Same cigarette. Same dead eyes. He stood in the doorway and said nothing for a long time. Finally, 3 nights down, I stared at him. What happens after 4? He didn't answer. Instead, he dropped something on the bar. A key. Room 5, he said. You'll need to open it. You're ready now. I shook my head. That's rule number 1. No one goes in there. He smiled bitterly. There are no rules anymore. Sunrise felt wrong. It wasn't golden or warm. It bled through the window like a wound. Cold, thick light that made the tavern's shadows grow longer, not shorter. I stood at the base of the stairs with the key in my hand. Room 5, the one rule that was clear from the beginning. Do not enter room 5 under any circumstances. Now the rules were gone, replaced by voices, screams, hallucinations, and confessions. The tavern knew me. It had judged me. And now it wanted me to open the door. 6:23 a.m. The door knows my name. Room 5 stood at the end of the second floor hallway. Door warped with age. The number nearly scratched off. As I approached, I heard it whisper. Voice was soft. Familiar. I stepped closer. It spoke again. Ethan, open it. They need you. I pressed my ear to the wood. 1,000 breathing lungs on the other side. 1,000 heartbeats pulsing together. It wasn't just a room. It was a womb, waiting to be born. And I had the key. 6:31 a.m. Inside room 5, the key turned too easily. Like the lock wanted to open. I stepped inside. No furniture. No windows. Just mirrors, covering every inch of wall, ceiling, and floor, all reflecting me from infinite angles. But none of them were exact copies. Some were older. Some were burnt. Some were twisted in agony. One of them smiled. That's when I realized. These weren't reflections. They were other versions of me. Each one trapped inside their own hell. Each one staring back. I turned to leave, but the door was gone. 6:44 a.m. The tavern's heart. The mirrors peeled back like skin, revealing something behind them. Something living. A vast, red cavity. A pulsating, wet chamber. The heart of the tavern. I had stepped into its body. It swallowed room 5. The veins ran through the walls. Black ichor dripped from the ceiling. The air stank of sulfur, rot, and despair, and hanging from the ceiling, like ornaments, people, dozens, hundreds, eyes sewn shut, mouths frozen in screams. Their hands moved slowly, reaching, clawing. Some still bled, and among them, I saw my wife, Lana, still alive, still whispering my name. 7:13 a.m. Her eyes. I ran to her. She hung upside down, her hair soaked in dark fluid, dress shredded. Lana. I screamed. Her eyes opened, and they were mine, not figuratively, literally. My exact eyes, iris pattern and all. You can end it, she said in my voice. But you must take the tavern's place. What does that mean? The tavern is a prison, she whispered. For the guilty. For those who can't die, because they refuse to confess. She leaned closer, her neck stretching unnaturally. Far, you built it. Every brick, every breath. This is your penance. 7:29 a.m. The truth, I dropped to my knees. Memories returned. Not just of the fire, but of everything. The people I betrayed. The lies I told. The town I ran from. This wasn't a tavern. It was a punishment engine. A place outside of time, built from my regrets. And not just mine. Everyone who ever ran from justice, from guilt, from consequence. It lured them in. Gave them rules to follow to stay safe. But no one ever made it to night 4. Except me. Because I had built it. Subconsciously. Spiritually. My shame carved the wood. My rage powered the jukebox. My silence fueled the mirror. I was the first. And now, I would be the last. 7:46 a.m. The bargain. The walls closed and a new figure stepped from the shadows. The true form of the owner. Not a man. Not a demon. Just a void in the shape of guilt. It didn't speak. It didn't have to. It offered me the bottle. The same bottle I drank from when I watched my home burn. If you drink, it whispered in my mind, you stay. The tavern lives. The next guilty soul arrives. And if I don't, I asked, then they all burn. Again. Forever. I looked at Lana. At the others. At myself. Trapped in a dozen mirrors. I lifted the bottle and shattered it on the ground. 7:59 a.m. The collapse. The tavern screamed. Every wall convulsed. Every mirror exploded. Room 5 collapsed into black flame. The hanging souls screamed in chorus as the chains holding them snapped. The ceiling peeled open like paper under fire. And I fell. 8:11 a.m. The ashes. I woke in the middle of the Texas desert. No tavern. No road. Just dirt, dust, and a single burnt sign. Black Hollow Tavern. I was alone. Except I wasn't. The man from the phone stood over me. You broke the tavern, he said, lighting his cigarette. I sat up, dazed. What now? He looked up at the sky, which was growing darker even though the sun had risen. You replaced it. I blinked. What? He tossed the lighter to me. Every guilty soul needs a jailer. I turned around, and behind me stood a new tavern, brick by brick, rising from the dirt, waiting for its next guest. 8:33 a.m. Full circle. I sit now behind the bar. Same stools. Same booths. Same mirror. Same rules, freshly nailed to the wall. The jukebox is silent. The mirror is cracked. And outside, a truck is pulling off the road. A man steps out. Confused. Sweating. Guilty. I can see it in his eyes. I clear my throat and whisper what the tavern once whispered to me. Welcome to Black Hollow. If you follow the rules, you might survive.